Imagine being born, and the government already considers your existence illegal. That's how Trevor Noah's story begins. South Africa was under apartheid, a brutal system that separated people by race. Black and white people couldn't live together, study together, or even fall in love legally. And if a white person had a child with a black person, that child was proof of a crime. Trevor Noah was that child. His mother was black. His father was white. And because of that, Trevor entered the world as something the government wanted hidden. As a little kid, Trevor quickly realized he was different. In black neighborhoods, he looked too light. Around white people, he looked too black. Everywhere he went, people stared at him like a puzzle they couldn't solve. But the hardest part? Sometimes his own mother had to pretend she didn't know him. When police appeared, Trevor couldn't walk beside her. He had to stay at a distance, while his mother acted like he belonged to someone else. Imagine being too dangerous for your own mother to publicly love. But Trevor's mother, Patricia, was not someone who accepted fear easily. She was bold, wildly determined. The kind of person who would break rules first and think later. While the entire system tried to limit her life, she refused to let it limit her son's future. Every Sunday, she dragged Trevor across buses, taxis, and crowded streets to attend multiple churches in one day. Not because life was easy, but because she believed faith and education could open doors that apartheid tried to lock forever. And then comes the moment that sounds completely insane. Trevor and his mother are riding inside a speeding minibus taxi. The driver is aggressive, angry, and clearly dangerous. The situation keeps getting worse. Then suddenly, Trevor's mother grabs him and throws him out of the moving vehicle. Yes, literally throws him onto the road. A second later, she jumps out too. It sounds unbelievable, but for Patricia, surviving mattered more than looking normal. She trusted the road more than the man driving that taxi. Trevor survives with only bruises, but the moment reveals something important. His mother would do absolutely anything to protect him. Chapter 1 isn't just about racism or apartheid. It's about survival. It's about a boy growing up in a country that treated him like a mistake, while his mother kept reminding him he was never one. And honestly, that's what makes this story unforgettable. Trevor Noah wasn't simply born into South Africa. He was born into conflict, contradiction, and a fight for identity before he could even speak. Trevor begins Chapter 2 by describing his mother, Patricia, as fearless and rebellious. She wasn't the type of person who quietly accepted apartheid rules. Even when society tried to control black women, Patricia always searched for freedom, for herself and for her son. Trevor already knew he didn't fully fit anywhere. Because of his mixed race, people constantly judged him before he even spoke. But instead of letting that destroy him, he learned how to adapt to every environment around him. The country wasn't only separated into black and white communities. Black people themselves were divided into tribes and language groups like Zulu, Xhosa, and Tswana. The government encouraged these divisions because divided people were easier to control. Trevor discovers something life-changing. Language can break barriers faster than appearance. When he spoke someone's native language, people instantly trusted him more. Suddenly, strangers became friendly. Enemies became comfortable around him, becoming a human chameleon. Trevor starts learning many languages: English, Zulu, Xhosa, Afrikaans, and others. This gives him a unique power. He can move between different social groups without fully belonging to any one of them. He becomes invisible and noticeable at the same time. Trevor realizes people love hearing their own language because it makes them feel seen and respected. Race may separate people physically, but language creates emotional connection. This becomes one of the most important lessons in the chapter. Trevor's mother is deeply religious. Sundays are exhausting adventures filled with buses, taxis, walking, and multiple church services in different areas. Trevor hates it as a child, but his mother believes faith is stronger than fear. For Patricia, religion isn't just tradition, it's resistance. In a country designed to crush black people emotionally and spiritually, church gives her hope, dignity, and strength. She wants Trevor to believe his future can be bigger than the system around him. As Trevor grows older, he understands something powerful. He doesn't have to let apartheid define who he is. Instead of choosing one identity, he learns to survive through intelligence, humor, adaptability, and language. Chapter 2 is ultimately about connection and identity. Trevor learns that understanding people, especially through language, can open doors that prejudice tries to keep shut. While apartheid tried to divide everyone, Trevor slowly discovers ways to move between those divisions and create his own identity.
Imagine waking up one morning and being told that the city where you were born isn't really yours. The school you attend isn't meant for you. The neighborhood you live in isn't where you belong. And the country you've called home your entire life suddenly decides that you are someone else's responsibility. Sounds impossible, yet for millions of Black South Africans, this was reality. As Trevor Noah begins Chapter 3, he shifts away from childhood stories and introduces us to the system that controlled every aspect of life around him: apartheid. To Trevor, apartheid wasn't just politics, it was the invisible force shaping his childhood long before he understood what politics even meant. Trevor explains that apartheid wasn't random hatred, it was a carefully engineered machine. Every citizen was classified according to race. Once the government placed you into a category, your future was largely decided for you. Where you lived, where you worked, where you went to school, even who you could love. Everything was connected to a racial label. The frightening part wasn't just the discrimination, the irony was that Trevor himself didn't fit into any category. His mother was black, his father was white. Under apartheid law, children like Trevor weren't supposed to exist. His very presence exposed a flaw in the entire system. Whenever people looked at Trevor, they saw something the government couldn't explain: a child who existed between the lines, a child who refused to fit neatly into any box. Without trying, Trevor became evidence that human beings are more complicated than the labels society creates. Most people assume power comes from weapons, money, or laws. Trevor revealed something different. The government's greatest weapon was division. It separated Black South Africans into tribal groups and constantly emphasized their differences: Zulu, Xhosa, Tswana, Soto. Instead of encouraging unity, the system encouraged separation. The government understood a simple truth: people who stand together are dangerous. People who stand apart are easier to control. Trevor then introduces one of the strangest ideas of apartheid: the homelands. Millions of Black South Africans were assigned to specific territories based on tribal identity. The government claimed these territories were independent nations, but there was one problem: most people had never chosen to live there. Many had never even visited them. Imagine being told that your home is no longer your home. That was exactly what happened. The homelands looked like freedom on paper. In reality, they became another way to limit opportunity and remove rights. While governments were busy creating categories, Trevor's mother was busy ignoring them. Patricia Noah believed that justice mattered more than rules. The law said she shouldn't have had a child with a white man, yet Trevor existed. The law tried to define her future. She refused to accept it. What's remarkable is that Patricia's rebellion wasn't loud. She wasn't standing on stages or leading crowds. Her resistance happened through everyday choices. Every decision she made told Trevor the same thing: never allow someone else to decide your worth. One of Patricia's greatest gifts to Trevor was curiosity. She didn't want him to blindly obey authority. She wanted him to think, to question, to challenge. Whenever Trevor encountered unfairness, his mother encouraged him to ask why. Who created these rules? Who benefits from them? Who suffers because of them? Those questions planted the seeds of independent thinking. Years later, they would help Trevor see the world differently from those around him. As Trevor reflects on apartheid, he realizes something powerful. A government can control land. It can control laws. It can control opportunities. But controlling the human mind is much harder. Patricia understood this better than anyone.
This is why she constantly exposed Trevor to new ideas, new experiences, and new ways of thinking. She knew that true freedom begins long before political freedom arrives. It begins inside a person's mind. At first glance, this chapter seems to be explaining South African history, but beneath the history lies something deeper. Trevor isn't only showing us how apartheid worked, he's showing us how systems of power work everywhere. They create labels, they encourage division, and they convince people to accept those labels as truth. By the end of the chapter, one message becomes clear. Apartheid wanted people to believe they were defined by race, tribe, and category. Patricia Noah taught her son the opposite. You are more than the labels placed upon you. You are more than the system around you. And no matter how powerful an unjust system becomes, it can never completely control a person who chooses to think independently. That idea becomes one of the most important foundations of Trevor Noah's journey, and one of the most powerful themes in the entire memoir. Have you ever been judged by a label before people got to know the real you?